This is Betsy Jensen, and you are listening to Unstoppable Body and Mind, episode 100, Coaching on Pain.
In this podcast, we learn to upgrade our brain and understand the power of our thoughts, to heal and to create the results we want in our life. Become the person in control of your healing and make peace with your life. Become unstoppable, body and mind.
Hello, my loves. This is episode 100, which I think is pretty cool. And today I wanted to summarize how I coach on pain and what that even means. There are a lot of different techniques and there's a lot of different information out there. So I want to tell you about specifically how I coach on pain and how it's evolved. So I come from a physical therapy background. Over 20 years as a physical therapist, I've been working with people in pain. And traditionally, the outlook for chronic pain is that you will have pain in many cases the rest of your life. And people are often told that about their conditions. So a lot of people who coach on pain are coaching people to accept that they have this condition that they'll always have and to make the most of what they can out of their life. They actually have research that treating chronic pain this way is not as effective as pain reprocessing therapy, PRT. People can have some reduction in symptoms and some improvement in their life quality with things like cognitive behavioral therapy, but pain reprocessing therapy actually teaches that by accepting these sensations and by neutralizing them, seeing them as non-dangerous, then your pain actually goes away. Your brain produces less and less and less of it until it is extinguished. So you get out of chronic pain. Now, when I first started coaching on pain, even a couple of years ago, I hadn't done the trainings in PRT. There was still a lot of mind-body information out there. I mainly studied things like Joe Dispenza and Dr. John Sarno and Curable and all of the resources that were starting to come out about the mind-body approach, but it was still a little clunky to describe. It was kind of like you have these repressed emotions and that shows up as pain in your body. But once the book, The Way Out, came out last year by Alan Gordon, and they started talking about this approach, PRT, pain reprocessing therapy, and they started training practitioners in it, I was super excited because this gave me a whole new way to explain pain and neural pathways and take out some of the confusing language about repressed emotions. So I've done trainings by Dr. Schubiner and by Alan Gordon for pain reprocessing therapy, and combining that with life coaching and nervous system regulation that I'll talk about in just a minute has been really, really a great combination for my clients. But back to PRT, basically what that involves is retraining the brain and nervous system not to react in the same ways that amplify and produce more pain. And by focusing on other things, by feeling the sensations and processing it neutrally through somatic tracking, which I have a meditation of an earlier episode on my podcast. And just like we know through neuroplasticity, what you focus on, you create more of. And that's actually true for pain. Pain is not reflective of tissue damage, like I was trained to believe as a physical therapist. There are many, many studies that show that people have these normal abnormalities, disc bulges, torn rotator cuffs, torn meniscus, arthritis, all of these various things are found in pain-free people too, now that they've started to do MRIs on pain-free people for research. So there has been this misnomer for a long time that chronic pain is due to these structural problems that we're just finding that the chronic pain can actually be rewired, reprocessed. Even people with severe structural changes can become chronic pain-free. There was a woman in the Boulder back pain study that's referenced in The Way Out by Alan Gordon, and she had scoliosis over 70 degrees, so her back was shaped like an S. And after pain reprocessing therapy, she got out of chronic pain. So her average pain was 0 to 1 out of 10. And this was without changing any of the structures of her back. So the structure and alignment physically is less important than we ever thought. And we also know that things like fear increase the brain's production of pain. So pain is not just reflective of what's going on with the tissue, but actually can be influenced and changed by emotions like fear. People who have chronic pain have changes in their brain where more of their brain activates and lights up when they have a stimulation. And generally, they have a bigger amygdala, which is the primitive brain, the fight or flight center. But by retraining and reprocessing the pain, rewiring the brain, and regulating the nervous system, all of this can be reversed. Because of neuroplasticity, the brain is constantly changing, and we can start focusing on things that feel good and teach the brain, train the brain to look for and find more of those things. One of the best tools that I talk about a lot on this podcast is called Detective for the Opposite. That's one of the tools from PRT. And that is where you start to notice that you have some beliefs of how your pain normally behaves, but sometimes it may not behave that way, especially when you're distracted doing something fun. Maybe you're talking to a friend, or you're watching a funny movie, or engaged in a book or something, and you notice that you have less pain than you thought that you would. So any of those moments, Detective for the Opposite. Other tools from PRT include graded exposure. I have a meditation for that as well on an earlier episode. And graded exposure is retraining your brain to go through movements, starting with the imagination, in a pain-free way. So again, when I talk about this nervous system and brain retraining, there are specific ways of neutralizing the sensation, preparing your body for movement again, and reprocessing all of these signals into ways that are more neutral, teaching your brain to focus on other things and freeing up all of that space in your life that you've been thinking about pain, worrying about pain, trying to prevent pain, and starting to shift it to other things that you are enjoying, that feel good, other thoughts that feel better. It's a shift in focus. And there are other tools like outcome independence to help with that. So I incorporate these principles of PRT, but I find it helps my clients have so much more context when they know general principles of life coaching, as well as the nervous system, like I mentioned before. So the nervous system, I really got into depth on after I did my PRT trainings. My mom actually passed away, and at that time, I kind of took a break from work, slowed down with things, and really got into studying the nervous system, going through my own trauma healing and processing, really experiencing all of the nervous system reprocessing, as well as learning about it and seeing how there's so much overlap with the pain reprocessing. Basically, the survival states of the nervous system put your body into a defensive mode or a shutdown mode that changes the physiology of your body. And so some of these pain pathways that can get activated are simply because your muscles are more tense because you've gone into fight, or you have more acid reflux because of the change of digestion because of these survival states. So understanding how important the nervous system is in the body changes can really help you understand if you're in a survival state, and then how to react to regulate out of that. I love to talk about the nervous system because I really feel like it helps people neutralize some of the judgment they may have on themselves during this pain reprocessing process. Most people with chronic pain are high achievers, they're perfectionists, they're people that want to do things right. And so that can actually be very stressful to the nervous system. So understanding these nuances of it's not so much what you do, but the emotion you're coming from. If you're in a survival state, you could be doing all of the right things, the right, in air quote, things to get out of pain. But from this dysregulated state, you're actually not really sending the message to your brain that it can relax and heal. So focusing on getting into the parasympathetic calm state more and more and more is basically like what they teach in PRT. And the coolest thing that I teach is that the best way to get into alignment to regulate the nervous system is to actually show your nervous system that you're safe by having fun, by doing things that are enjoyable, by having more pleasure in your life. It may sound weird, but many people need to learn how to tolerate more positive emotions. We're used to thinking and feeling negatively. And so we actually have to expand that capacity of tolerating things that feel good and allowing our brain to feel safe while doing that. If you think of sleeping at night in a jungle, you would probably not have a great night's sleep because you would be on high alert and looking for danger. So I love that I get to teach people to have more fun and more joy in their lives to regulate their nervous system and get out of chronic pain. It's not just toxic positivity. We want to be able to experience the range of emotions, including the positive ones and not just the fearful negative ones. Now, what I really love to teach about and find so amazing is that by learning to become more embodied, to tune into our bodies, to not fear our bodies, we can actually use these sensations and cues from our brain and nervous system, the way it shows up in our body, to have more intuition. This can be our superpower. So when we have sensations in our body and can interpret that this is our nervous system that's dysregulated, it's not a sign of damage, it's nothing to be feared, then the nervous system can get back into that parasympathetic calm state again, where the system functions well, where it's not using its energy for defensiveness and for surviving, but all of the systems are in this rest and repair state. And this is where your body can heal. So as you tune into your body, you can become more and more intuitive, using your body's cues to give you extra sensory information. This parasympathetic calm state is a state of alignment, not the physical alignment like all of your vertebrae are nicely stacked, but alignment of you with your higher self, your wise self, with your intuition. So if you find yourself confused by all of the information that's out there, this can be your guidance system to be able to make decisions in the future and to trust yourself rather than having to look outside of yourself for all of the answers with this lens of fear. I do believe that chronic pain and illness are reflections that you are not in alignment emotionally or spiritually, or in alignment with what your desires or passions are. Dr. Schubiner says, people with chronic pain generally have a sense of feeling trapped. So understanding what for you might be trapped or blocked, what thoughts are painful to you, what ways are you being harsh on yourselves that are setting your nervous system off to this dysregulated state. All of that is what I help you find out about yourself through coaching. And pain isn't always what we talk about in our coaching sessions with the clients that I coach, because so much of this nervous system dysregulation has to do with our thoughts and beliefs on relationships and business and money and our self-worth. So all of these things I can help you understand through the lens of life coaching. I can teach you to understand your emotions, to process them all the way through, and to be better prepared to handle stressful events in the future. So if you want to become more embodied or intuitive, or you want to work on getting out of chronic pain and really understanding your body and the signals that it's sending you, then I would recommend coaching, either one-on-one or group coaching. I have an amazing deal right now on my 6-month group coaching membership. So if you have been looking for a community, for guidance, for help with applying these tools or understanding these tools in a new way, be sure and check out the show notes for Alignment Academy.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned a little bit about your brain today that helps you in your life like it helped me. Please be sure and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, be sure and share this podcast with someone you know that wants an unstoppable body and mind.